If y'all don't know what's going on tonight, you're like, yo, what the bump? Just rolled up in here. Why is there a whole bunch of people up on the stage? We did this really cool thing. I guess it's crazy to think it's about a year ago that we did something like this. And I don't know, can you raise your hand if you were here the last time the Grices came? Look at that. Come on, somebody. Those are faithful Pursuit members right there. But it was really cool. I remember in the small chapel, I remember that whenever this was the first service that we were like, we've got to get another space. This is getting too small. And it was like, wow, it really kind of blew my mind that, college kids actually want to talk about marriage. And I think that's something that our generation so desperately needs is Christian people that are married that actually say, hey, look, this is the way it's supposed to be, because the world is telling us so many things of, hey, this is you should do this and it's not right. It's not even close to being right. So thank y'all for being here. If you don't know who these people are, has anyone had to suffer through Mr. Grice's class? No one's going to raise their hand because they love Mr. Grice. They love his class. He admitted to it. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. I'm not going to do it for you. Y'all can just go down the line if y'all want to. John Stephen, you can start if you want to.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, I'm John Stephen Grice. I am in the graduate program right now. I have actually my dad as my professor for the
No mercy, right? No mercy?
Third class, yeah, he fails everybody. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so are we just introducing or are we kind of telling about ourselves?
You just introduce as far as much as less you want us to know.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you how I got here school-wise. So I graduated from Pike Lib here in Troy, right behind Walmart. It's the Walmart school. And then I went to University of Alabama for 1 year, transferred back to Troy for my sophomore year, and I graduated my undergraduate spring of this past year, and then started graduate school this past summer. And so that's how I got right here right now.
Hi, John Stephen.
Well, I am Allie Grice, and
We're married.
we're married.
Before you go any further, who introduced y'all? I know that fact kind of gets skipped over a little bit. Yeah.
Chase introduced us, so I'll just go ahead and get that out of the way.
Yeah, y'all, just if you get anything out of tonight, just remember if you hang around me, you might be walking out with a relationship. So.
So I am originally from Panama City, Florida. And when I graduated, I went to Highlands College, and then I went back home to community college before transferring to Troy. And I met John Stephen maybe my first month in Troy, and we got married a year ago, so it's mildful. Yeah.
I'm Angie Grice. I'm married to Steve, mother of John Stephen, mother-in-law of Allie. And I got here, I'm old, so it'd take me a long time to tell y'all how I got here. I'm not. I grew up in West Virginia, came to Troy on scholarship, and met Steve my probably second week here. So I work at Pike Lib, the Walmart school, and we have raised 4 kids here.
I'm Steve Grice. I'm her husband. Who said I'm old? Now I'm married to her, and that's my son. But yeah, I was born in Dothan, Alabama. And my father moved around a lot. We lived all through the southeast, a little bit in Tennessee. But moved back to Troy. I actually went to Charles Henderson. Came here right when I started high school, and I went to Charles Henderson and then to Troy. And after Troy, went to work with an international CPA firm for a while, and then back to school at the University of Alabama, and got the master's and PhD, and came here and taught, and spent time at UAB also, but then came back to Troy. But Angie and I have been married for 27 years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed 25 of those. You knew I had to say that one. Yeah.
That's the same joke as last time.
Yeah. But I look forward to, y'all have heard that before. I look forward to being with y'all tonight and just talking about our marriage. Marriage is a wonderful institution, and it's been a blessing in my life, and I hope she says the same thing. So I'll give it to Chase.
Yeah. I think Allie was the first person I ever met. We took the same leadership class and got thrown in hey, y'all get in groups and introduce each other. So all of a sudden, somehow I ended up being our group leader and got to introduce Allie, who I did not know, but for 5 minutes. And then me and John Stephen just met out on the band field playing soccer, and it's crazy how our friendship has just continued to just grow and grow and grow. And then, seriously, almost a second family to me. no doubt I probably see y'all more than my own family nowadays. So they put food in my stomach sometimes, and I'm very thankful for y'all and trust y'all's advice in this certain area. One thing that I'll point out is the reason that I don't really talk about marriage coming from me is because I have no experience for that. So I'll hands down say, I'm not going to try to tell you something that I don't know. So that's why you bring in the big guns. And tonight you might be sitting back and you're kind of like, why are we doing this? Maybe there's a question that we got tonight that you might feel a little awkward maybe to ask your own parents. So that's why we asked John Stevens' parents to come so we could ask them. So that's the grand scheme of this. But do y'all mind just if you can elaborate a little bit more on maybe how you met? Because y'all both met at Troy. So.
You want us to? Okay. Well, like I said, Chase introduced us. I wasn't kidding about that. We were at I was in a sorority and John Stephen was in a fraternity, and we met at a swap here at Troy. And yeah, thank you, Alpha Gamma Sigma Chi for that one.
And Chase.
And Chase, that's right. So we met and just started hanging out in the same friend group and started dating a few weeks later. So, have anything to add?
We were in risky business underwear, and so that was a pretty interesting fact. I like to tell people that when we first met, we were in our underwear. I think that's kind of, but that's like knee-length boxers and a white T-shirt, so it wasn't like risky or anything like that. Just, I think that's a funny thing to add. So, but yeah.
Well, we in the fall of '88, we was a.
Sounds like a song.
I was in the fall of '88. I was 2. Y'all didn't let me finish.
No, they weren't even.
But we was at a swap too. I was in a fraternity, SAE, and she was Alpha Gamma, was at a swap, and I tell everybody this, and the guy's still here. His name's Gary Blackwell, lives in Montgomery. But I told him when Angie walked into the fraternity house, I'd never spoke to her, and I just saw her walk in, and I tapped Gary. I said, Gary, I'm going to marry her. And he still knows that, and he's even stopped by our house and confirmed it to her. And the first time that she saw me, I'll let her take that.
Well, I had seen him. Steve was an Alpha Gamma Big Brother back in the day, and so on squeal day, bid day, whatever y'all call it now, we're in the chapter room, just all excited. All the freshman girls sitting around, and all the big brothers are standing around the edge, And I thought, oh, that guy, he's cute, kind of scoping everybody out. And as we're leaving, he stands all the way up, and I can see, and he has the shirt tail of his shirt sticking out of his zipper that was unzipped, like hanging out. And I was like, bless his heart, he must be the biggest geek. And 2 weeks later, then we met. So
That's funny. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be something like that there'll be something more embarrassing, I think, whenever it's my turn to have that. So maybe you kind of skipped over something even more embarrassing, who knows. The first question, when did you know that this was the person you wanted to marry?
Well, what I said is absolutely true. I mean, when she came in, I said, I'm going to marry her, and so I did. So I knew pretty early, about 5 seconds. But no, obviously there's more to it than that. I mean, because there's things that you do have to look for. I mean, I know I was looking for, and I'm sure she was. Of course, looks. Looks are attractive. That helps. Certainly helps. But after that. After the spiritual thing in her heart, you could see right into her heart, and just the things that she did, the way she treated people, the way she treated me, and just the things that she did. And you know them by the fruits that they bear, and so you could see that was a godly woman, and I could see as the closer we got, the better, the more I knew that. I was right on that very first second that that's a good choice.
Well, Steve has always had a confidence that's been really attractive to me, but beyond that, he was a godly boy and has grown into a godly man. And that was one thing that I could see, even, from the first time we met. He behaved differently. There was that light, that someone has inside them when Christ is in their heart. And I could see that immediately. And, the jokes are pretty good, too.
That's right. You hang around for the jokes?
I stayed for the jokes.
Too. Same jokes every single time. Well, I'll say I knew whenever I first met Allie, I knew that she was the type of girl that I wanted to be with. Like, I could see, not only, physical appearance, but the way she, communicated with people and, affected other people. I knew that she was kind of the type of person or type of girl that I wanted to marry. And so as we kind of gradually got to know each other and actually got to hang out with each other, one-on-one, I could more certainly put my finger on, specific characteristics that I wanted my future wife to have and wanted, the future mother of my kids to have. And so I knew, as you start, checking off the tick marks or whatever, ticking the check boxes, whatever you say, that she was filling them all. And so it just kind of happened over a course of, I don't know, what was it, 6 months? It happened pretty fast, but it was that's about how I knew.
Well, I knew date 3 I wanted to marry John Stephen. I feel like y'all have said, I don't know, when you know, you know. And when I started hanging out with John Stephen, I knew he loved family. I met his family really quickly, and I realized that he was raised in a great family, and that was really important to me. I'm super close with my family, so I knew that I wanted that, and I knew that he loved Jesus, and the way he loved others, it wasn't just words. I saw actions behind them, and that was really important to me. And he's pretty funny, so I liked that. I laughed, so.
It seems I think that sometimes single people, they try to make it work, and they maybe get nervous, or they're kind of I gotta make this work. And I think that what I've kind of heard is that it kind of comes naturally. It's a whole lot more just comforting, and it's just kind of when people say you'll know when you know. But it's there's no, you don't have to force it. It's just.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so strange, Chase, that you just said that, because when I prayed about coming here, I always prayed that not words that I want to say or I feel like are important, but what does somebody need to hear? So somebody here needs to hear. What you just said is that if you find yourself changing who you are around the person that you're trying to hang around with, then that's not the right person. That very thing went through my mind, is that, God made you in a specific way to fulfill a specific purpose. And if you are changing yourself in order to please someone else, then that's wrong. That's not the right way to be.
Come on, somebody. They don't do that when I preach. So I was telling somebody before they came in, I was like, Miss Angie got some, people were shouting her down last time. Y'all in for a treat. I got, I guess, a follow-up question. When you're looking for that person, what are some things that maybe are kind of maybe more primary, and then some things that maybe are a little bit more negotiable, if that makes sense?
I'll start. I had 3 main things were faith, family, and finances. Those were my 3 things that were non-negotiable. I wanted to be on the same page about those values, that we both wanted family. That was really important to us, and we wanted a family in the future. Faith, we both share a love for God, and that was going to be at the center of our relationship. And then finance, that we were just on the same page with what we wanted to do with our future and our finances. Those things were non-negotiables. The rest of it, could come and we could figure those out. But those 3 things were really important when we first started dating, that we were on the same page about those.
You just said them all 3. That's about. I can repeat what you said, but the number one thing that I check off is is she a godly woman? And so that was the first thing that I was looking for. Future family, you got to agree on that, because if one person wants kids and one person doesn't want kids, what are you going to do? You can't have half a kid and how's that work? And then finances are another big thing, and we're just an echo chamber for what he's about to say, because I know he'll tell you about some finances real quick, but I'm sure you got all the stats and all that, but it's number 1 reason for divorce, and it's the most mentioned topic in the Bible, all this, so many different things. But finances, whether you know it or not, are one of the top 3 most important things to be on the same page about in marriage. And that was one of the things that we discussed before marriage and still discuss about every single day about money situations. And so those were three, faith, family, and finances were three things that we thought were extremely important to seek out and be on the same page about for our future spouse.
Yeah, I would echo that. That's, I mean, faith for me. Number one thing is that my future wife had to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and so once that's there, all the other things tend to work out. You know, because if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, the odds are you want to grow a family. You know, the odds are you're going to read the Bible, and hopefully not odds. I hope you are. And so you'll read about finances, like John. Yeah, there's over 2,500 verses in the Bible on money, and that's not just restricted to those that are accounting. I mean, we're all Christian people, and so we have a responsibility to understand what those verses say, regardless of what your major is. And but having a heart for Christ is number one. And because if you get into a marriage, I've used this phrase before. If you get into a marriage with a non-believer, you're really inviting hell into your life. You know, it's going to be rough. Not that it's a piece of cake with two Christians, because it does. There's some work involved, but the other, you're just starting on a uphill climb that is just hard. It's just hard. Not that it's not doable, but it's just hard.
Yeah, I think that like one thing that I've kind of heard is, I know sometimes I'll be talking to someone, they're kind of like, well, I mean, like they kind of love Jesus. Like it's like they kind of do. But I think like what y'all have said is just, when it comes to when you're looking for the one, when you're looking, it's like that's somebody that wants me to make me a better Christian. It's not someone that I'm just kind of like, yeah, they kind of love Jesus, but they're not even like, there's no strive in me. Like, there's somebody that's like, man, she's awesome, and I want to be a better Christian because of how godly this girl is. Since we mentioned finances, one of the questions that they asked was, if you're in a relationship and you're looking to get engaged, one thing that we hear is, you should be like financially stable first. And lots of us kind of being in college, not really knowing what that actually looks like. How financially stable do you have to be before you move on in your commitment?
I got this one.
Tackle it.
No,
We're not in class.
no. I think if getting married, just like having children, if you ponder too much about, I'm not going to do it until I'm financially able, you may never do it. And so you don't want to put finance, give it such a high level of importance in your decision to get married or to have children. Because you'll make it. If two people love Christ and they're working the same way in the same direction, you'll make it. It doesn't matter whether you have $10 or $10,000. And so it is important to be on the same page. But I'll give you. We had basically zero income when John Stephen was born. And we didn't think twice about it. As a matter of fact, after we were born, we got pregnant with Adam before I even had the first job. And so, it's important, that you know about money and know how to manage it. But that'll come. Two people working together, being obedient to the Word of God and doing what that Bible says, it works. Those are fundamental laws of life, and they work.
I don't know. I feel like we started off not making a lot of money. We got married in college, or I was in college. She had just graduated. And so when we got married, did you even have a job when we got married? I don't think, there was no income when we got married. And then like 2 weeks, 3 weeks afterwards, she got a job. And so we basically managed. And, since we're on the same page financially, we know what we want to do with money, whether it's spent or whether it's earned. We're on the same page about it. And so we knew how we wanted to divvy up money that was coming in, even though it was so there was so little of it. And that's still where we are. I'm still in school, and she's working a job right now. But it really is just a matter of being on the same page about finances. Like we said, faith, family, and finances. If you can be on the same page about the finances, it doesn't matter how much of the finances you have, and you'll know what to do with it. You'll be comfortable living.
That's good. That's good. Y'all got anything else on that? I think this is one question that I know that this is one question you really don't even want to ask your parents. So that's why I brought y'all. This is, what are some ways you fought off sexual sin before you were married? And some people, I think, heard me say sex and were like, oh, he said it. Say it again. Say it again.
Sex.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think we discussed this. The number one thing, and it sounds like kind of a cop-out answer, but communication. And like if you're on the same page about wanting to save yourself and stay abstinent until marriage and hold each other accountable for it, but not only hold each other, but let your friend group or your family, your people know what your main goal is. And I think that's one of the most important things is communicating with each other and holding each other accountable. And if you guys can both stay true to each other, you'll be successful in that.
And as we were talking about this earlier, I was and praying about it. Something that I learned was that God doesn't put boundaries on blessings to limit us. He puts them to protect us. And I know that the Lord saved us from a lot of things that we were never meant to endure, because sex outside marriage creates a lot of problems, from jealousy to attachment. And I know that by not having sex before marriage, we were protected and blessed in that, and blessed in our marriage for that. And I know that it all started when we, in the very beginning, just being intentional about that conversation. And it can be awkward, and sometimes it's just kind of passed over, but it's just so important to have that intentional conversation and make sure y'all are on the same page about it, like you said.
I think that the pointing out that sharing what you're trying to do with the people that love you and can help you is important, and not putting yourself into a situation where you're tempted to go too far. Where your limits should be, and those kind of things. And there are a lot of people out there who may feel committed to somebody because they have had sex with that person. And so, that's it's an emotional thing, and it's a thing that, when you're sharing, and the world is going to say, it's not important, animals do it, everybody does it, it's not important. But that's not true. That's not, we know that it's a covenant act blessed in marriage, and meant, God, meant for us to enjoy that. And so, if you have done that and you're trying to stay committed to a person just because of that, and that person is wrong for you, then you're not going to be blessed in that way. And so when you do find that right person, whether you're a virgin or whether you're not a virgin, and you come to that agreement, that I'm going to honor you, we're going to make this covenant with God, and we're going to try and do it in the right way, then you'll be blessed.
And I think it doesn't, it doesn't stop even when you get married. You'll hear people talk as it goes on that there's challenges even as after you're married. And I think the most important thing that's helped me and helped me back then and now is I try to keep my mind clean. I try to not, we're bombarded with things that we can look at. And it's very easy now, and I just try, I try to turn my head, because I don't want it to go in there, because it just goes into your thought. And so, staying out of those situations and turning your head. If it's a movie, there was a movie we went through the other night that if I had not been in the middle of everybody, I would have left. Yeah, I would have. I even told you, it's like I would have just left. But you might have even been with us too.
No, I don't remember that.
No,
I don't think so.
Chase wasn't there. But there was some. Well, it's just. I think it's important that you protect your mind, and then also realize this: that the Word of God is true, and the things that it says in there that will play out, they will play out, whether you believe it or not. And that always helped me a lot. Just knowing that, all right, as long as I do that, I'm going to be okay. That was always helpful, because you got to have strength. You try to go with that stuff alone, it's hard.
Yeah, I think it's really encouraging hearing from your perspective of being married for so long, that I think sometimes as us guys, we just like, man, if I could just get married, then this dark sin in my life will no longer be there. And that's not the case. It's something that still continues to go on. And I think sometimes we think that maybe marriage is almost like the finish line of like, oh, if we just get married, then we're done. It's like, no, it's a whole nother, that's a new step of life. I got a question. This seems like lots of, I wouldn't say hard, but just heavy conversations have to be had. That you actually have to talk about some things of some weight. What are some ways that you don't leave an argument with resentment, and ways that you maybe, like you said, communicate? How do you communicate even when maybe tensions are high, but then still loving each other?
Me? All right.
We got two perspectives, old, long
Okay.
married, short married.
Yeah, and this is something, Chase, that you're going to have disagreements in your marriage. That's just going to happen. But how you handle it's very important. And the first thing that I think we try to do is there's this thing called pride and a lack of humility, and you've just got to let that go. If you've got to say, I'm sorry, you just say it. You've got to say thank you. You've got to have compassion. It's not about you in a marriage. And if you can, and sometimes we're clicking on all cylinders, and sometimes we're not. Because sometimes I want it to be about me, or vice versa. And when it's like that, I'm telling you, it is not fun. But when you let that pride go, and you can have conversations and disagreements and not take it personal, but usually it always comes down to just it's all about me and I want to be right. You just can't do that. Don't do that.
I think it's also important, I think I may have said this the last time we were up here, but you don't hold grudges against one another and throw things up again that may come back, because, if you're in this for the long haul like you're supposed to be, the whole till death do us part thing, that's a long time, y'all. And there will be disagreements, but you never say, you never, or you always, or those tones. It has to be a respectful disagreement. And of 27 years of marriage, I can say that we have never screamed or raised our voices at one another, called each other names, anything like that. Now we've been angry, and we've had to take 10 seconds and walk away and come back, that kind of stuff. But it's about being respectful and being forgiving, toward one another, because there isn't any perfect people in here or up here, and so when you realize that and know that you make mistakes and your partner's going to make mistakes, and just be willing to say, my bad, I'm sorry,
I think that part gets a lot. I do think it gets easier. We've been married 27 years, and so now we got that part down to a science, kind of. When we were younger, it was a work. It was work. It's like, I'm not saying that, but it gets better. That gets better.
Don't say, it's her turn to say, I'm sorry. It's his turn to say, I'm sorry.
I know before we got married, somebody gave me the advice to never go to sleep angry, and I think
That was me.
I thought it was you. I was like, should I just say it was her? Good advice. And it really is good advice. I mean, just work through an argument until the argument is over, and then move on and go to sleep and start the next day fresh. Like you said, don't keep carrying it on and bringing it up. And I think you just communicate until the argument's over, and then let it be over. And that's the best way to just not hold grudges against each other.
I think, I got something to add. One thing that we've done, we've intentionally tried to do is tell each other, the minor good things and the minor bad things that happen to us throughout the day. So that way, somebody's not going to come in with a bunch of pent-up anger because the garage door was left open or something like that. You don't come in with a hot head, like yelling at each other, because if you can stay on the same page with the small things, like emotionally, you'll understand why somebody's a little more angry or a little more calm in a certain situation. So I think that's one thing that's really helped me in our relationship that we've done, and I think for you also, right?
You can't read each other's minds.
Yeah. Tell each other everything that happens, even if you you got a rock in your shoe. You're like, Allie, I got a rock in my shoe, and it's been just making me so mad. Just like the little things like that build up over time. Those are things that start the arguments, and you're really not even arguing about anything. So we try to stay on the same page emotionally about the very small things that make us happy and excited, and the small things that make us annoyed and frustrated. And that seems to work for us so far. Only been in it a year and a half, so we'll see.
It came up several times about holding grudges, and I tell you, the one thing that we have done, and it's so nice, is just let it go. You know, you're gonna disagree, but then once you're done, just let it go. You know, because every time you hang on to one, I mean, just picture adding a weight on your shoulder. And because the next day you got to remember exactly, well, wait, why was it? What was the deal with that? What was the angle? Just let it go. And it's actually pretty nice. Like, you know, it's like, I guess I might be supposed to be mad, but I'm not. I let it go yesterday, you know.
I got two more questions. The first one is, how has marriage changed you as a person? And then I'll ask the second one after we get done with the first one.
I guess I'll say something. So I don't think marriage has changed me morally or like for what my values are, because I sought after a woman that almost matched that. And so I don't think that morally I've changed as a person, but I think my day-to-day personality has rubbed off on Allie, and hers has rubbed off on mine. And so like the mannerisms that she does and the mannerisms that I do trade off on each other. And so that's one thing that I've noticed in the year of marriage that we've had. But morally, spiritually, with our virtues, we're on the same page about that. And so if I were to change my morals to be more like Allie, it really wouldn't be changed at all, because they're the same to start off with. So.
Well, I can think back years ago. One of the ways that Steve changed me, I think, for the better was that I guess I've had more, not worth, but maybe a confidence, standing up for myself to others, considering myself an adult and not a child. And sometimes that's hard for girls, because you're your mama and daddy's little girl, and they don't want to let go, you know. And I remember I used to tell him, well, but Dad's going to, and Steve would be like, what? Dad's going to what? You know. I mean, you know, just. And so I guess that's it. You know, the maturing together. And we were married very young, and they were married very young. And so I feel like that you know, we weren't really set in our ways individually, that we were really able to develop, you know, into mature adults together, you know, at the same time.
Yeah, one thing, the way marriage changed me, and it still does, is that it has sharpened my skills of being compassionate, sharpened my skills of letting it go. All the virtues that it talks about in the Bible, being married and practicing them with my wife, they just get sharper and sharper and sharper. You know, thinking of others before myself. I'm much better about that now, and continue, because when you get into marriage and you start doing those things, you get good at it. You get good at it.
I'll agree that my values haven't changed since, we were on the same page about those, but John Stephen is very confident. That's one of my favorite qualities about him, and that has definitely rubbed off onto me. Just, I guess, caring less what other people think and caring more about the people that are really important in my life. That, yes, I care what you think and what my family thinks and what God thinks, but not just always worrying about what somebody thinks about me. And I think that he's really brought out that quality, and that's been very life-changing, I feel like, for me.
I got one other thing to point out, kind of what Dad said. It kind of reminded me, but being married so far, it's been a lot easier or it's been easier to point out the good qualities in Allie as well as the bad qualities in her, and same for her to me. She can more easily tell me what my good qualities are, my bad qualities are. So it's a lot easier to have this person next to you every single day to call you out for the things that you mess up on or your bad qualities as well as your good qualities. And so if you got somebody there saying, hey, that was like really good compassion there, like nice job, like fist bump on that. But and then at the same time, like, hey, you're getting a little prideful. You need to like stop yelling so much or whatever. I don't even know. But like you're able to enhance the good qualities of each other while also kind of deterring the poor qualities.
Yeah, this is my last question, and I think that if you haven't really been listening to anything else, so maybe you're like myself, you're single, or maybe you're dating someone, and you're like, hey, like if you could give me one piece of advice, and Mr. Stephen, John Stephen, if y'all will do like kind of for the guys, and if y'all will do for the girls, just one or two things that you might want to just encourage us with, or like this is your final charge. Last thing you got to say, what would it be to us that are still kind of in that previous season that y'all are now not in anymore?
The number one thing that I would say is definitely, and still do it to this day for my marriage, is you need to pray. Read the Word of God and pray. Pray about who He's going to put in your life. I pray every day for my marriage. I pray every day for John, Stephen, and Allie's marriage, and I pray every day for the marriage of my other three, Adam, Jordan, and Eli. I'm already praying for their spouse. And as a young man, you just pray that the Lord will put that godly woman in your life. I can't imagine anything more important than being plugged in and seeking Him through the Bible, seeking that person through the Bible.
Yeah, that's good. That's kind of like the ultimate advice for everybody, I think, as far as marriage goes. But maybe a little more specifically, I would like to say, like, don't really play games. If you're actually trying to meet somebody you want to spend the rest of your life with, you don't need to be holding these DMs from some other girl just because they were there from 6 months ago, whatever. Be real intentional about your purpose for this relationship, and which it should be marriage and finding somebody to spend the rest of your life with. And so, I think on that same note, I don't even know if this is relevant to the question, but the one thing that I would like to say is that it's good, or I did this with Allie. I immediately put my trust and faith in Allie when I met her. There wasn't really, she didn't earn it. I didn't want her to earn it. I went ahead and gave her my trust and faith, and and let it be how it was. And I think she did the same for me. And because we were so straightforward with each other and upfront with our intentions and what we wanted out of this relationship, we were able to progress faster than normal, I would say. But I would say those are two pieces of advice I would like to give.
Yeah, if communication's so key, I know that like we are so bad about playing games, and I mean, like you said, like just praying. I think sometimes we try to figure everything out by ourselves, and it's like we're not even talking to God about who we're actually trying to marry. But that's good. I know so many guys. It's like, hey, like she didn't text me back, and it's like, man, if she didn't text you back, do you want to do you want that the rest of your life? You
want to find somebody that's more willing to meet you the next day and hang out for lunch and dinner, versus that's going to want to stay up till 3 a.m. and text you. Because the face-to-face communication and relationship is so much better and so much different than not only text messages, but even phone calls. Like people being able to see how a person reacts to the way you communicate with them and how they react to people around them is such a big factor in who a person is and how they are. So.
Let's see. Well, this is a big one. This is a good one. Well, yes, it goes without saying.
Be confident.
Prayer. All right. But girls, I feel like that. Remember that you're not looking for somebody to make you happy or make you whole. Only Christ gives us joy. Only our salvation is the source of joy and happiness and strength. Because relationships are human, and we're imperfect people. God alone can give us that joy. So if you're looking for the guy who you think is going to just make your life a 100, you're not going to find perfection in a guy, right? So prayer and working on your relationship with Jesus, and then being willing when you find somebody that you think God may have intended for you, let them be the godly spiritual head of your household. Okay? You know, you can't fight for control. And sometimes girls like to be bossy like that. You know, so you gotta, you know, and that's not, I think I said this last time, that's not weakness. Actually, that's strength is to model that, you know, that the way that a marriage should be designed. You know, as the man is a godly spiritual head and the ultimate decision maker. You know, there's communication, but ultimately, you know, we that's the way that God intended the relationship to be. So, you know, try not to be the boss of everything.
I agree that if you aren't satisfied in Christ before a relationship, you're not going to be satisfied after, because an earthly person is never going to give you all the satisfactions that you need. And but my advice to girls is that after you know that a guy is pursuing you, be willing to pursue them back. A relationship is just that, a relationship. It's 50-50, and a marriage is 50-50, and we both put in the effort. And like he said, it's not about games when you're in a relationship that's you're looking to marry this guy. I mean, I hear a lot of girls like, oh, he has to text me first, and he has to do this first and that. And realistically, if you're going to marry him, he's not going to do all those things first for the rest of your life. It's worth you pursuing back and being willing to show that you are just as interested in the relationship. So.
Yeah, that's really good. One thing to kind of brag on y'all about is I've gotten to hang out with y'all, and I remember one of the first times that I even came over to y'all's house, Mr. Steve was like, if your dorm room gets, I don't know, if something just happens and you need to spend the night at the house, even if we're not here, you can have the code. And I was like, wow. Like, and I really felt like you genuinely meant that, and still to this day, and I see the same qualities in y'all. I mean, it's whatever I need as a friend, or if I got this guy that's my friend that's coming up. I mean, y'all are always the first people that I'm like, hey, can they spend the night? And it's so cool to see that it's not just something that, you know, older people do. It's so awesome to see how gracious y'all are with everything that you have.